Good evening and welcome to I'm Listening Live. I'm Listening is a 365, 24/7 initiative that works to destigmatize talking about mental health, and that's what we're going to be doing on the show. Got a great one planned for you. We got Phil Keoghan, the host of the new show Toughness on CBS, as well as Dr. Shira Gabriel talking about surviving social isolation. Important topics. Now, I wanted to start the show by reminding everyone that COVID numbers are surging. So it is imperative, as that happens, that we do talk to our friends and family members and make sure that they are following all the recommended rules, and most importantly, getting tested, as well as continuing to wear your masks. Now, get comfortable wearing them because some experts say we might be wearing them well into the next year. I also wanted to acknowledge that it is still LGBTQIA Pride Month, and that means we want to continue to understand that the work hasn't stopped. People around the world are still murdered and tortured and also imprisoned for being gay. We have so much work to do here. Now, there's a lot of celebrities in the news right now. Halle Berry turning down a role that was for a trans individual. J.K. Rowling tweeting some anti-trans stuff. So again, that reminds us that this is still an issue that's ongoing. Now, what is the work that we can do here? Well, representation and inclusion is really important. We all want to get familiar interacting with individuals that are gay, lesbian, and also trans. We can watch with our friends, our family, and also our children, movies, read books, get them familiar with the language, get them to meet individuals, because the journey is about exposing ourselves and others to a diverse set of individuals with sexual orientations, learning how to tolerate it, then accept it, and finally we land with celebration. And that's where true mental health comes in. So make sure for the next month you try to focus on being a good gay advocate and ally and support those around you. And now let's go to our first guest, Phil Keoghan, the host of the new show Tough as Nails on CBS. Welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm very good. I just wanted to say thank you for following the memo that I sent with regards to the unshaven look and also the blue shirt. One button undone up at the bottom. The only thing that's not matching is apparently you have far more tattoos than I do.
I like to follow the rules sometimes, but we'll work on the tattoo thing. So I always like to start the show just by talking about mental health. So right now, through everything that's going on with COVID and whatnot, how is your mental health?
Well, you know what? My family's close by. My wife and my daughter. How is my mental health, everybody?
Uh-oh.
Questionable, apparently. Questionable? Always questionable? Is that it? Is that all I'm going to get? And my daughter doesn't say anything. She runs out the door to go test drive a car.
That says it all, Phil.
Yeah, no, listen, I think I'm in pretty good shape. I won't say it hasn't been challenging, because it has been. But what's really helped me is being distracted with a job, being able to focus on something that I feel really passionate about. And so people have asked me about how to, get through this. And I've said to them, get focused on something, get really into something, whether it's reading a book, doing something you've always wanted to do, never done before, and just try to immerse yourself in something that makes you feel good, because we need that right now more than ever.
Yeah, I think that's beautiful advice. And that's what I'm kind of telling people that I'm working with clinically as well, is find something meaningful, to do at this time. Otherwise, it can add another layer of depression. Yes. So for someone like yourself who works a lot, and congratulations on everything, Tough as Nails is Wednesday, 8 p.m. And also we're going to be doing a little season 32 of Amazing Race as well. How do you maintain connections with those you love while so busy and on the road?
Well, it's challenging. I mean, it's a day-to-day thing, right? This is the longest that I've ever been in one place in my life. I've never had this I've never been so grounded, I guess you could say. I've been in television for 35 years, and I've averaged around 250,000 miles a year since 1994. I had one year where I traveled 463 or 67, somewhere around there, 1,000 miles. It's very challenging, especially when you have a child. Maybe that's why she ran out to test drive a car. I don't know. But yeah, no, it's very challenging. My family live in New Zealand. But all the relationships that I have are based on people knowing what I do and the fact that this is a part of my life. So you just have to set aside time. I do struggle with that sometimes because I am a workaholic, and I got that from my parents and then their parents before them. You know, coming from working class people, I think there's a work ethic and a drive to just keep on going and going and going. So I have to force myself to relax. I had my first day off work this year a few weekends ago. My daughter forced me to do that for my birthday. I have to say I really enjoyed it. And I did it with 100% commitment. I didn't pick up my phone. I didn't work for an entire day, and it felt great. I tend to do that with things. If I get into something, I'm all in, including relaxing when I do relax, which is not that often. But no, I find time to get out. And, you know, I do feel lucky that I get paid to do something that I, quite frankly, would pay to do. I mean, that's how much I love what I do. So I feel very lucky.
Yeah, the kind of people you've gotten to meet and also the places in the world that you've gotten to go. It's quite impressive.
Yeah, very lucky in that regard. And you know, throughout my career, as I've gotten older, I've tried to help more and more people identify the things that really make them happy. And I get them to do an exercise like as simple as just getting out a piece of paper and writing down all the things that make them happy. People, travel, food, reading, gardening, whatever it is, like to write out what are the things that make you the happiest, and then ask yourself, well, how can I do more of those things? And sometimes that involves a career change, or it involves studying to get a qualification in something that you've always wanted to do. So you need to know what it is that you want to get out of life and make yourself as happy as you can be so that people are happy to be around you. It's your responsibility, I think, to create your own happiness. Other people shouldn't make you happy. It's about you being fulfilled and then having something that you can offer others. And that is what creates an infectious personality. People want to be around people who have that positive energy where there's something that they're providing rather than kind of sucking stuff away from somebody else. You're pushing something out into the world, something positive.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I love that advice. When you're focusing on yourself, you're actually focusing on the health of all the relationships you're a part of. So let's talk about Tough as Nails. I watched the trailer and I thought, wow, I don't know that I could do any of the jobs that these individuals are doing, and the diversity of people in terms of shape, size, gender, but also it's really impressive, their dedication, but also their resilience. So talk to us about that and the people that were chosen.
So I mentioned that I come from working class people, coal miners, gold miners, farmers. My grandfather was a mechanic, auto mechanic, and a World War II era mechanic. I've always been inspired and loved watching people who work with their hands, people who can do things with their hands, their number one set of tools, and that knowledge that they have to be able to get things done. It's always fascinated me, and it's always frustrated me that, you know, my grandparents didn't get a chance to have a tertiary education, but my parents did. And my grandparents' generation, you know, who came through the Depression and then World War II, they were all about pushing their kids into getting a tertiary education. And what's happened is we kind of started to look down on those people who are in the trades. Like somehow, if you don't have a degree and if you haven't gone to university, you're somehow less than. Like you can't have a fulfilling life doing something in the trades. You have to have a degree. That is the key to the kingdom of happiness and being a good contributor in society. And so it always frustrated me that people had that attitude. We've got 3 million trade jobs right now that are vacant in this country. And you can't tell me that there aren't some high school kids that would be great at going into the trades and being mechanics and studying under a master trades person. So I just want us to get back to honoring that and see that that is something very valuable. And just so happens that right now we are appreciating our essential workers perhaps more than we ever have since Rosie the Riveter in World War II. And so the timing of this show going on the air and acknowledging those hard-working men and women who roll up their sleeves every day, get the job done, who wear the calluses on their hands as a badge of honor, those people who allow us to flush our toilets, turn on the lights, who help us get food on the table, who make things work, make sure the roads are smooth, who are up on buildings, connecting massive I-beams, those people that are essential to the world working, that we take a little time to honor them. And that's really what this show is all about. So I picked 12 of who I believe are the toughest workers in America. I brought them to Los Angeles, and I had them compete at real job sites against each other. You might see a fireman doing something on a farm. We have people from all walks of life. They're not going to be running over obstacle courses or, competing on some reality set that we've built. We're taking them to real job sites, real people in real life who are real tough, going to real job sites to compete, to find out who is the toughest of them all.
Yeah, and it was interesting watching, like I said earlier, the diversity, because I saw the one woman speaking about being a female iron worker, and I was like, well done, because again, I couldn't do that, but I like that it's a reminder that you don't have to take a career or skill that's traditionally a certain gender.
Yeah, that was kind of a key factor in the show was, what is toughness? What does it mean to be tough? And you understand, I'm sure just in your work, you've met people who you might see from the outside and think, oh, that you make a judgment about somebody, but based on the way they look. And then when you get to know them, you're like, wow, that person is so incredibly resilient and tough. Now, my mother is 78 years old, and I am going to say without question that of all the people I've ever met in the world, she is hands down the toughest person I've ever met. Now, is she stronger than my dad, who at 78 for his birthday did 430 push-ups? No. But mentally tough, nobody can match her, in my opinion. And so I wanted to explore what toughness is outside or off the NFL. You don't have to be an NFL player or an MMA fighter to be tough. You can also be tough by getting up every day at 4 o'clock, driving an hour and a half to work, pulling in a full day's work, going to a second job, going to the grocery store, picking up groceries, cooking for your family, freezing the food for their meal the next night, going to bed at midnight, getting up at 4 again, and doing it over and over and over again, year after year. And that to me is tough. And that's something that I wanted to explore. So you're going to see that we will redefine what toughness is, and that it comes in many shapes and sizes. Sometimes you'll see two people on our show who are in their 60s. They're male, they're female, they're young, they're old, black, white, different trades. Toughness comes in many shapes and sizes, and that's sort of something we really wanted to explore on the show.
Beautifully said. I'm inspired, and that's going to be on Wednesday nights at 8 p.m. so people can go back and check out the 2-hour premiere. Thanks for everything you're doing, and congrats on the show.
Yeah, thank you. And I do want to say that in addition to finding the toughest of them all, nobody goes home. That's what makes Tough as Nails different, is everybody stays to the end of the competition, because even if you get cut from the individual competition, you stay to compete in a team competition, and there's money to be won in the team competition as well. So if you fall in love with the characters that you see on Tough as Nails, just know that they're going to stay all the way to the end of the series, because there's 2 mutually exclusive competitions happening at the same time.
Beautiful. All right, we'll be tuning in. Thank you so much. Have a beautiful night.
Yeah, thank you.
Take care. I love that. Anything that shows the diverse ways that people can move through the world or also have a career, I'm here for. I want a show like that, to inspire you to follow what you have passion for, because all the studies show us that happiness is not rooted in your education or even your paycheck. It's about doing a job that relates to the skills that are most meaningful to you, but more importantly, where you walk away feeling like you did something meaningful and important. And now let's go to our next guest, Dr. Shira Gabriel, Associate Professor of Psychology. How are you? Welcome to the show.
Good. Thanks for having me.
Of course. So we're going to talk a little bit about surviving social isolation. I know that when COVID happened, we weren't necessarily prepared. Also didn't know the length of time that we were going to have to be self-isolating. So when we're talking about trying to get through this as best we can, what do we need to be considering?
So I think it differs for every person. We all have a basic human need for social connection. So we need to talk to other people. We need to feel connected to other people. We need to feel like we're a part of something bigger than the self. But we do differ in how we fill that need for connection. So people need to think about the best way that the things that they do that tend to make them feel connected in their regular lives when we aren't being socially isolated. And then they need to try and come up with ways that they can fill those needs even through social isolation. And we've been doing a little research on it, so I have some ideas of what those things can be. But for each person, it might differ based on what you like to do when you have all your options.
Yeah, and I think I'm so thankful that it's happening at a time when we have the use of technology, because I don't know what we would have done had this happened back in the day when we used gasp landlines. Remember those?
Right.
So in a general sense, though, for those that, generalizing, what would be the top 3 things that you'd recommend to people to get through this at their best?
So the top 3 things, the first thing is if you have access to programs like Skype or Zoom, or if you can use your iPhone to video talk with people, make sure to do that. So make sure to keep in contact with people in that way. That's one thing to do. So our research suggests that if you can do that, it helps. When you do that, turn off your self view. So you can Google how to do that if you don't know how to do it, but you don't want to be looking at yourself while you're talking to other people, because it takes up mental resources. It's not normal, basically. And most of the time we can't see ourselves. So when we can see ourselves, even if we're not normally self-conscious, we feel self-conscious, and it depletes us. It makes us tired. I don't know if you've ever been on a Zoom with people and it seems fun, but then at the end you're kind of exhausted. Part of the reason for that might be if you have your self-view turned on. That's just not a normal way to interact with other people.
Wait, that's powerful. I haven't heard anyone say that yet. And now that you're saying it, I'm thinking of myself on FaceTime. And most of the time I'm staring at myself.
Oh, yeah. It's terrible. We all do it.
Yeah.
And don't feel bad about doing it. It's totally normal, because it's abnormal to be able to see ourselves in conversation. So you want to turn that off. You don't want to be able to see yourself. That's one huge way to increase how much you enjoy those things. Another thing you can do, so a second thing, is to think about ways that you can connect that you normally couldn't connect. So, for example, I've been in touch with friends from high school that I lost touch with, and friends from college that I don't really talk to, because if you're stuck in the house, odds are other people are stuck in the house too, and they have extra time. So you can take this as an opportunity to reconnect with people as well. And our research suggests that that is really a very healthy way to handle this. And then the third thing that you can do is not feel guilty about increased screen time. So if you feel drawn to rewatching The Office, and if you spend a few hours some evening just binge watching a new show, those might be the sorts of things that you normally feel bad about it. But our research suggests that those are actually things that make people feel good, and that the people in quarantine who are doing those sorts of things actually have increased well-being instead of lower well-being. So don't feel guilty about turning to your favorite television shows or your favorite movies as a means of feeling connected. That's good. That's healthy.
Yeah, and I think, positive outcome that came from this that I saw in my own life and also, clients in my private practice, is that it also reminded us, me and them, that we were maybe putting work too much as a center point of priority, and that we're realizing how we really do need these relationships in our lives, and that we weren't giving them enough attention and focus.
Yeah, that's amazing. So that's such a beautiful thing to hear. Like, if people can find a way to learn from this and turn this into a positive thing, like that's, that's a huge predictor of well-being in life, is being able to take the negative events that happen to us in life and figure out ways to frame them in ways that are positive. And so if you can learn from this that you really value your friends or your family or your time to yourself, or even your work time. I mean, I found that I've enjoyed some of the time that I've been able to sneak away and work as well. It's reminded me of the things I enjoy about my research. So I think that's wonderful. That's amazing to be able to take this time and really reflect on it. But don't put pressure on yourself to do that. I mean, there are people out there who are really struggling, so I always hesitate to talk about like all this silver lining, because you don't want people to feel bad if they're not feeling that. It's enough. Like, everybody's journey is different through this whole thing. If this is harder for you, then it's harder for you. If you're not finding a silver lining right now, that's okay too. This is very difficult. And so do what you can to be kind to yourself and to use these, what we call non-traditional means of connection, because because our research suggests that that's helping people. Watching TV, spending time on Zooms or FaceTiming with people, reaching out to old friends who you didn't see before, you haven't been in touch with for a while, even going on social media, as long as you're posting and interacting instead of just scrolling. Those are all things that seem to be making people happy and reducing the negative effects of this isolation.
And if possible, let's do a little forecasting. Are you concerned, or are you seeing the possibility of some new syndromes coming out of this that maybe we wouldn't have culturally encountered prior?
Oh, that's such a great question. I mean, I don't know. Like, I wish I had an answer, like a smart one for you about a syndrome that we hadn't encountered before. I think that this will bring home to people how important it is for them to be socially connected. My hope is that people will find the ways to connect, even though they're here during this time. And they're isolated and stuck in their own homes.
Yeah, and I love that, because again, I'm such a relationalist, and I'm always trying to promote centering that and making that more of a priority in our culture than productivity. And so I hope that benefit comes out of this. And maybe that's the new syndrome. And then finally, I want you to just weigh in on this with me, because this is something that has created some online battles for me. There's a lot of people, they're using the apps, they're dating, and some people are saying, look, self-isolation's gone on long enough. I want to get out there and meet people. I want some affection in my life, maybe some sexuality. And I'm saying, as a mental health professional, please don't do that. Date online, meet up in separation. But some people are saying, look, some people need those touch needs met. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, that's tough. That's really hard. Like, it's a really, really difficult thing. It's funny, we collected a bunch of data looking at our college students and how they're dealing with this, and those sort of comments surprised me at first, although of course they make total sense, that people were missing physical intimacy. They were missing touching other people, they were missing sexual activity. And I think for people who are isolating by themselves or isolating in situations where they don't have regular access to it, those are going to be very tough things. I think one thing that's important to keep in mind is that this isn't forever, even though it feels like it's forever. This will pass, just like everything passes in life. And I think almost all of the experts agree that at some point we're going to find ways to be able to get past this. But you won't get past it if you get sick. And if you get sick and get other people who you care about and you love sick, that's something that you have to live with for the rest of your life. So I think when we're weighing these things in our mind, we have to keep in mind that we're stronger than we think that we are, and we can deal with things that we didn't know we could deal with, and we can make it through these times. I mean, the pioneers made it through years alone on the prairie. People have made it through, death camps and prison, and you can make it through this. I'm not trying to minimize it. This is very difficult, but your physical health is important too, and your long-term mental health is important as well.
Beautifully said. Dr. Shira Gabriel, thank you so much for being a part of the show, and have a beautiful night.
Thank you. You too. This was fun.
Be well. Beautiful message. Historically speaking, we've been through things that are difficult before. We can come out of this on the other side. Focus on things that make you happy, give you pleasure, some passion, but also let yourself be where you're at. Not everyone's thriving, and that is okay. For those that need some additional support or resources, we're going to have some posted after the show. You can check out all of our past episodes on all of the radio.com handles. And of course, we'll be back next week at 5 p.m. Pacific. That's 8 p.m. Eastern. As always, thank you for hanging out, and you all have a beautiful, beautiful night.